According to my count, the team remaining back-to-back games or 2 games, they have 5 back-to-backs left in this season. January 28th and 29th, March 3rd and 4th, March 10th and 11th, March 30th and 31st, and then April 2nd and 3rd. So there are 5 instances in which this could take place again, which is not like a huge sample size, but we'll see what happens come the end of this month here. And there's definitely a give and take because if they do start him and you're trying to have him play back-to-backs as starters, there's going to be bigger gaps. There's going to be times when he's sitting for longer periods, especially if you want him to finish the game. On the games that he comes off the bench, his minutes feel very formulaic. You kind of know what you're going to get. And it's not like it's happened a lot, but his typical rotation looks something like this. If he's coming off the bench, he's playing the last 6 minutes of the first quarter. He's playing the last 6 minutes of the second quarter. He's playing the last 6.5, 7 minutes of the third. And he's going to play the last 7 to 8 minutes of the fourth. And that comes out to about 27 minutes. So if he's not starting, he's playing the back half of those quarters and progressively getting a little bit longer in the second half with the third and fourth quarter. On the games he starts, it's more of a staggering, right? He's playing the first 6 minutes of the first quarter. And then in the second quarter, it's bookended. First 5 minutes of the second, and then he comes back in for the last 2 minutes or so to end the half. Third quarter, he plays the first 6 minutes, and then the fourth quarter feels very similar to the second quarter, where in the fourth quarter, he's going to come out and play the first 4 or 5 minutes, and then he's going to come back out for the last 4 minutes to close the game if they're still in the game and they need him to finish. That comes out to a little bit over 28 minutes or so. So not a big sample, but there's a clear pattern of him playing a little bit less when he's coming off the bench. So how do they fix this? Can they fix this? If you're trying to avoid him coming off the bench and not messing up that rhythm, my preference for the coaching staff is to kind of look at this. Can he start both games? I'm not one of those who thinks that they need to like pick and choose the better opponent of the two. So if they're playing Cleveland and Orlando, like let's play him starting in Cleveland and coming off the bench in Orlando. I just say start him for both. And having said that, I know that they're going to have to adjust their game plan if he starts both games on a back-to-back. There's going to be times where I feel like that routine that I talked about will have to be limited. He might have to sit for a minute or two longer here or there to kind of alleviate the wear and tear of that exhaustion of playing on back-to-backs. Because if the ultimate goal is to keep him healthy and to limit his playing time on back-to-backs, and I want him to start both, I do think that I'm okay with him starting both if he does sit for longer periods here or there while still trying to finish the game as well. Now, I'm sure that's something that they've looked into. I'm sure that it's something that they've had conversations about with LaMelo, with the medical staff, but that would be my preference. Now, it's not just like a minutes thing either in terms of I want him to play, I want him to be a starter because he is a starter, because he's making all this money to be a starter. Like that to me is not because of the player and what we signed up for. Like that's all secondary. I think he needs to be starting because the offense flows better with them out there. And that definitely seems like an obvious statement, but the team needs to come out strong. They need to come out like they're not having to overcome some kind of gap when he comes onto the court 6 minutes into the game and they're already down 9 points. And they're having to overcome these deficits in the second half. And it just feels like they're trying to chip away, but they can't eventually get over the hill there, exactly like what happened in Cleveland. And I love Sion James and what he has brought to this team. He's done a great job on defense. And I will say that he's done a very good job on defense in the sense that he's a very versatile player in who he can guard. You'll see him be a guy that is the point of attack defender more often than not, but Charles Lee doesn't mind throwing him on bigs, power forwards, centers. He's been good at that. And he's been good as a spot up 3-point shooter too. But he's not the guy that gets others involved as the starting point guard. in the sense that he's not going to be orchestrating the offense and being a guy that's going to break down the defense with his handle or leading guys open with his passes. He's just not that type of creator by any stretch. And I think that's fine for a backup point guard where there's going to be some staggering of personnel. He's going to be playing alongside LaMelo sometimes. But as the starter with LaMelo coming off the bench, I just don't think it's meshing well. And I think that's more of my issue, not so much, hey, I want LaMelo to play because he's getting paid all this money. I just think it's throwing off the routine of not only LaMelo and Sion, but also the players around them. And I don't mind Sion as the backup point guard, at least for now. Like, I think he's passable. He's shown a willingness to pass early in the possession, get off the ball, move, get the offense flowing within the set. But for me, in these last 5 back-to-back situations, I would hope that they can figure something out where LaMelo starts from here on out, even if that means he sees less time on these back-to-backs. And that's just my opinion. I don't know what the right answer is. I would love to know what your thoughts on this whole situation is, and maybe you guys can head over to the Substack conversation and comments and leave a comment about what you think about Ball. Do you think Lee is doing the right thing? Like, do you think this is the way that they should be doing it for the next 5 back-to-backs as it currently stands? Do you think they need to be more strategic about when he starts? Maybe be picking and choosing the better opponent and maybe have him start against Cleveland, but not Orlando, and make it matchup based? Or do you think that he starts one of the games, but completely gets shut down for the other and have him play heavier minutes in one? Or are you like me and just have him start both games, knowing that the game time and floor time is going to be limited? So I'm not sure. Like I said, there's a right answer to this, even though it feels like a lot of people online have their opinions and feel like they have all the answers sorted out. And, Charles Lee's got it all wrong. I do think, though, that there's some kind of middle ground here. But overall, I think the main goal in managing his workload is like top priority. It's very, very important. And so if they feel like this is the best way to do it, I will obviously respect the decision. But my ultimate preference is for him to kind of start and maybe just see less minutes.